on this topic of the effect of AI on the landscape of work, one of the people that have been speaking about it in the public domain, public discourse, is the presidential candidate Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about Andrew? What are your thoughts about UBI, that universal basic income that he made one of the core ideas? By the way, he has like hundreds of ideas about like everything. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts about
Well,
him, and what are your thoughts about UBI?
let me answer, the question about his broader, approach first. I mean, I just love that. He's really thoughtful, analytical. I agree with his values. So that's awesome. And he read my book and mentions it sometimes, so it makes me even more exciting. The thing that he really made the centerpiece of his campaign was UBI. And I was originally kind of a fan of it. And then as I studied it more, I became less of a fan, although I'm beginning to come back a little bit. So let me tell you a little bit of my evolution. As an economist, we have looking at the problem of people not having enough income. And the simplest thing is, well, why don't we write them a check? Right. Problem solved. But then I talked to my sociologist friends and and they really convinced me that just writing a check doesn't really get at the core values. Voltaire once said that work solves three great ills: boredom, vice, and need. And, you can deal with the need thing by writing a check, but people need a sense of meaning. They need something to do. And when, say, steel workers or coal miners lost their jobs and were just given checks, alcoholism, depression, divorce, all those social indicators, drug use, all went way up. People just weren't happy just sitting around collecting a check. Maybe it's part of the way they were raised. Maybe it's something innate in people that they need to feel wanted and needed. So it's not as simple as just writing people a check. You need to also give them a way to have a sense of purpose. And that was important to me. And the second thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, we are far from the end of work. I don't buy the idea that there's just like not enough work to be done. I see like our cities need to be cleaned up. Yeah. And robots can't do most of that. We need to have better childcare. We need better healthcare. We need to take care of people who are mentally ill or older. We need to repair our roads. There's so much work that require at least partly, maybe entirely, a human component. So rather than like write all these people off, let's find a way to repurpose them and keep them engaged. Now that said, I would like to see more buying power from people who are sort of at the bottom end of the spectrum. The economy has been designed and evolved in a way that's, I think, very unfair to a lot of hardworking people. I see super hardworking people who aren't really seeing their wages grow over the past 20, 30 years, while some other people who have been super smart and or super lucky have made billions or hundreds of billions. And I don't think they need those hundreds of billions to have the right incentives to invent things. I think if you talk to almost any of them, as I have, they don't think that they need an extra $10 billion to do what they're doing. Most of them probably would love to do it for only $1 billion or maybe for nothing.
For nothing, many of them, yeah.
I mean, an interesting point to make is like, do we think that Bill Gates would have founded Microsoft if tax rates were 70%? Well, we know he would have, because they were tax rates of 70% when he founded it, So I don't think that's as big a deterrent, and we could provide more buying power to people. My own favorite tool is the Earned Income Tax Credit, which is basically a way of supplementing income of people who have jobs and giving employers an incentive to hire even more people. The minimum wage can discourage employment, but the Earned Income Tax Credit encourages employment by supplementing people's wages. If the employer can only afford to pay them $10 for a task, the rest of us kick in another $5 or $10 and bring their wages up to 15 or 20 total. And then they have more buying power. Then entrepreneurs are thinking, how can we cater to them? How can we make products for them? And it becomes a self-reinforcing system where people are better off. Andrew Yang and I had a good discussion where he suggested, instead of a universal basic income, he suggested, or instead of an unconditional basic income, how about a conditional basic income, where the condition is you learn some new skills. We need to reskill our workforce, so let's make it easier for people to find ways to get those skills and get rewarded for doing them. And that's kind of a neat idea as well.
That's really interesting. So, I mean, one of the questions, one of the dreams of UBI is that you provide some little safety net while you retrain, while
Right.
you learn a new skill.
Yeah.
But like, I guess you're speaking to the intuition that that doesn't always, like, there needs to be some incentive to reskill, to train, to learn a new thing.
Well, I think it helps. I mean, there are lots of self-motivated people, but there are also people that, maybe need a little guidance or help.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really hard question for someone who is losing a job in one area to know what is the new area I should be learning skills in. And we could provide a much better set of tools and platforms that mapped it. Okay, here's a set of skills you already have. Here's something that's in demand. Let's create a path for you to go from where you are to where you need to be.